Hey guys, so I'm back and it is time to talk about some books. It's the end of April. It is the 29th right now. Yeah, I thought I would give a little wrap up about all of the books that I read in April. So if you watched my TBR for April, you will know that I had 7 books this month that I wanted to read. I actually read 8. I did one that I didn't finish in March, and then I also read another very, very short one. So I will go over all of those and tell you kind of what I thought about them. I guess I should say that for most of these, there are probably going to be spoilers, so you have been warned. So the first book that I read in April was my new book for the month, and it was called The Other Bennett Sister, and it is by Janice Hadlow. As I mentioned in the other video, it is about Mary Bennett, who is the middle Bennett sister from Pride and Prejudice. Now, I've read Pride and Prejudice, and I've watched versions of it, movie versions, and I really like it, so I wanted to see what she could do with that character, because Mary is not really in the book that much. She has like a few lines, but she's very much a background character. Overall, I would say that this one was one of the more enjoyable ones of the month. One of the things that I liked about it is that it focused more on the minor characters of Pride and Prejudice. Now, if you've read or watched Pride and Prejudice, you will probably know that it is about, well, it's mainly about Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy, but it also has Jane Bennet and Mr. Bingley and Lydia Bennet, the youngest Bennett sister, and Mr. Wickham. So those are kind of like the main characters in the book, and then there's some other little characters kind of sprinkled in. Well, this one takes some of those minor characters that didn't have as much, I want to say screen time, but it's more like page time, I guess, that didn't have as much character development, and kind of gives them that. So it was nice to see that. So of course you have Mary Bennett, and it also gives you a little more insight into Charlotte Lucas and Mr. Collins and the aunt and uncle that show up in the book, the Gardeners. Plus, of course, it has some new characters. Anyway, when I went into the book, I expected a little more with like Elizabeth and Darcy and everything, and they are in there, especially toward the beginning, because the beginning, it is set during the time of the events that are happening in Pride and Prejudice. So you get to see when Mr. Bingley comes into town for the first time, and the balls and everything that happen in the book, and where Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy meet. But it's from the perspective of Mary, who is kind of the outcast of the family. But anyway, when it starts, you do get a little more with the other sisters. But then once the events from Pride and Prejudice are over, you only see them briefly. So that was not really what I was expecting, because most books that are kind of sequels and stuff to Pride and Prejudice focus a lot on Elizabeth and Darcy, and they were in it briefly, like I said. So they had a few scenes with Mary, and then Mary kind of moves on. But the Gardeners do show up a lot. She moves in with them into their house in London, and meets people through them. And also for a while she stays with Charlotte and Mr. Collins, and she has this connection with Mr. Collins because they're both like academic kind of characters. They like to read, so they study together. And she also kind of has a connection early in the book, and a little later in it too, with Charlotte, where they're both kind of considered the plain characters. They're not as pretty as, the other girls, and so they kind of have a lot of heart-to-heart talks together. So that was really interesting. So it was pretty cool to see those background characters kind of come into the foreground and, have their own little moment to shine. Of course, there were other characters that I would rather have not seen, like Mrs. Bennett, who shows up a few times, and she's still the worst. She's the worst in the original. I can't stand her. And yeah, I think I disliked her even more in this book. And the other character that kind of had a bigger role was Caroline Bingley, who is Mr. Bingley's sister. And just like in the original, she was very annoying. And she was still up to her ways, her conniving ways. And yeah, did not like her. So Mary herself starts off as a kind of boring character. She's very stoic. And then she meets a guy, and the guy that she meets is really into poetry. And so he kind of introduces poetry to her, and that's how they connect, and it's really cute. And then, of course, there's another guy who comes along, and so she ends up with two guys that like her, and that's like the last half of the book, is who is she going to choose between these two guys. It does get a bit tropey. It turns kind of into like a Hallmark movie, basically, where you have a lot of misunderstandings and everything, but it works a little bit better in that book, in that time period, than it would like in a modern day setting. So it wasn't that bad. Anyway, so that is that book. There was a lot that I liked. There were some characters that I didn't like, of course, but overall I did enjoy it, and I've already recommended it to someone on Twitter. Yeah, it was nice to see what somebody could do with that character. So the second book that I read was Appointment with Death. That is my Agatha Christie book for the month, and it was another Poirot novel, but he doesn't really show up until the second part of it. It's divided into two parts, so there's the first half and there's the second half. The first half is like everything leading up to the murder. Now, I know that I talked about last time that in Death on the Nile, it took a long time for the murder to actually happen. Well, this one was the exact same way. It took the whole first like half of the book for any kind of murder to happen, and when it does happen, you're not really sure if it was a murder or if it was like if she died of natural causes, but you do find out that she was murdered. Anyway, so this one was a little bit strange, but I liked it. Trying to figure out who done it was difficult. I did not figure it out, but I had one theory that I will talk about toward the end of this little section, and I think that should have been the way that she went, but she didn't. So part one of the book starts off, I'm pretty sure it's like at a hotel in Jerusalem, and Poirot is, he has his window open in his room, and he overhears a conversation, and the conversation, someone basically is saying, she needs to be killed, and he's like, oh, well, this is probably just like an author or something, trying to figure out how to kill one of the characters that he's writing about, and it's not actually a person who's planning to murder someone. But I'm gonna keep in mind that voice that I heard, because I think I could recognize it again. Well, he does recognize it again. It kind of becomes evidence against that person later on. And that person who says it is Raymond Boynton, and he says it to his sister Carol. Boynton is a really, really weird name, but yeah, I'm gonna be saying it a lot because it is about the Boynton family, and they are an American family who are touring Europe and Asia and all of these places, and yeah, he is the second son of the family. They have an older brother whose name I cannot remember. I think it was like Linton or something weird like that. Anyway, so there's an older brother who is married. There is Raymond, there's Carol, and then there is Jenny, the youngest daughter. And presiding over the whole family is Mrs. Boynton. She's basically evil. So she always has her family under her thumb. She does not give them any kind of money, so if they were to try to leave, they would be penniless. She wants them to wait on her hand and foot, basically, and they all just live there in the house, and they do her every whim. We also meet a couple of other characters. There is Sarah, who is a doctor, and she's kind of attracted to Raymond, and there's another doctor who is kind of attracted to Jenny, which is really weird because I feel like the way she was written, she seemed really young, like I'm talking like early teens young, and this doctor is kind of older, and he falls in love with her, basically, and I really wish I knew how old she was because not knowing this makes me really disturbed. There's also a friend of the Boynton family, and then there are two older ladies. Well, as they're traveling and everything, they end up meeting at Petra, the city of Petra, and they're staying overnight there. And one of the days that they're there, the Boynton family, except for the older Mrs. Boynton, all go out with some of the other people in the group, and they come back, and when they go to check on her before dinner, they find out that she is dead. So the question is, which one of them killed her? Because most likely one of them killed her. So of course we go through all the different suspects and how they could have done it, and it turns out to be the least likely person. Guess what? The person committed suicide. the person who killed her committed suicide. Again, why? Why? I don't understand why Agatha Christie does this. It really annoys me. But anyway, I will tell you the person that I thought it was. I thought that, this is not what happened, but I thought that Mrs. Boynton had killed herself and set it up so that it looked like her kids killed her. That's not what happened, but I was so convinced. Because this woman, it seemed like something she would do. Anyway, I did find out later after I finished the book that Agatha Christie made this into a play, and in the play, that's how she ended it. That's what she said happened, and why couldn't she have done that for the book? Because I feel like it would have been a much more interesting plot. Anyway, I think it would have worked better, but who am I? Who am I to say? So, yeah, I did really like that one. I liked the setting and I liked the characters and everything. I thought it was very interesting, but most Agatha Christie books I like, so I wasn't really expecting to hate it or anything. But speaking of hating books, this one right here, I hate this book. I don't think I've ever hated a book more than I hated this book. Yeah, it was bad. It was real bad. Plot, terrible. Characters, awful. Dialogue, abysmal. I hated every single thing about this book. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make a whole separate video just talking about how much I despise this thing. And then I might throw it in the trash because that's where it belongs. Moving on to something that I didn't hate. I just didn't really like it that much. It was okay. And that is Fairest of All. That is the Disney book that I decided to read. It is about the evil queen from Snow White. So this one, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst book. It wasn't this. Oh God, just don't even want to look at you. So yeah, it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't that great. I'm pretty sure that I mentioned in my TBR video that this was probably written because of how well Maleficent did. Well, I can tell you now, this was no Maleficent. It was kind of disappointing, but I can't really complain too much because it was basically written for children. So it tries to tell why the evil queen turned evil in the first place. Because at the beginning of the story, she's not evil. She's actually really nice. She loves the king that she marries. She actually loves Snow White. They're like a big happy family. And then her husband dies, and then her dad basically comes back to haunt her. Because in this novel, her father was a mirror maker, and he is basically the one who made the magic mirror. But the person inside the magic mirror is him. That is her dad in the magic mirror, and his soul has been trapped inside the mirror, basically, by these three odd sisters, is what they're called. And apparently they show up in all of the books that are in this series. They're basically what connects all the stories together. So anyway, the evil queen's dad was a mirror maker when he was alive, and he made some kind of deal with the odd sisters. The evil queen's mother dies in childbirth. He basically made the evil queen, she doesn't have a name in this, and it's so hard to just keep calling her the evil queen, but that's basically what they just keep calling her, the queen. Anyway, so he makes her kind of feel like crap all the time because he makes her think that she's ugly, and that she could never like live up to her mother and everything. Anyway, the punishment for whatever deal that he had going with the odd sisters is that when he died, he was trapped inside the mirror. So they gift her, the odd sisters gift her the mirror, and she puts it up, and basically he's trapped in there and he can't tell a lie. He can only tell the truth. And so she starts talking to him through the mirror, and he tells her that she's beautiful and that she's the fairest in the land and all of that stuff. And so while he was alive, she never got to hear that from him, and so now she becomes obsessed with it. So that's basically why she goes crazy and turns evil and everything, is because now she's finally getting his approval, and once she loses that, once someone else is fairest in the land, that's kind of what makes her want to kill people, basically. So it's real weird. It was okay. I did like the ending of it. There are several more in the series. I'm not exactly sure how many. I'm pretty sure there's like a Maleficent one. There's one about Ursula. There's one about Mother Gothel from Tangled. And yeah, there's a whole series. And then there's one just about the Odd Sisters. and there's one about the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. And that is the only other one that is available on Kindle Unlimited, which is where I read this. Yeah, I decided to go ahead and continue the series just to see if the second one was better. And so that is where we get to my bonus book for the month. So the second one in the series is called The Beast Within, and of course it is also by Serena Valentino, who wrote the other one, even though I forgot to say that earlier. Anyway, so this is my bonus book of the month, and I actually liked it better. I liked it a lot better than the first one. So if I get the chance to read the other ones, I probably will try to, but I can't find them anywhere else, and I don't really think that I want to spend $11 on them, because I don't think they're worth that, but I would still like to read them. But yeah, so this one was a lot better. It had a happier ending though, so that may be why I liked it better. But it basically kind of shows how he became so beastly. It kind of follows him through his transformation into the Beast. Basically his inside showing on the outside, because he's such a vain character. There's at one point he is supposed to be marrying this woman, and he finds out that she is like a pig farmer's daughter, and when he finds that out, he says, okay, sorry, I'm not gonna marry you anymore. And that's kind of where all of the problems start, because she happens to be the sister of the Odd Sisters. She's like the youngest sister. So she is the one who basically puts the curse on him. And in the book, he's best friends with Gaston when it starts off, and then slowly, as he turns into a beast, he ends up attacking Gaston, which is one of the reasons that Gaston hates him so much. So it's a lot of backstory of the Beast and not so much with Belle in it. One thing that I did really like about it is the way that they handled the servant situation, because as if you've watched the movie, if you've watched the cartoon version of it, the servants are like different objects. So you have Mrs. Potts, who is the teapot, and you have Lumiere, who is the candelabra, and Cogsworth, who is the clock, and all that stuff. That is the way other people see the servants, but part of the curse is that he doesn't see the servants that way, because he doesn't see them as friendly or anything. He sees them as these like really strange statues, and that was kind of cool. I thought that was pretty neat. So at one point there's a statue that just kind of shows up in the garden, and it's holding a candelabra, so you know that it's Lumiere, but that's not the way. He doesn't see them the same way that Belle does, because he's supposed to be more frightened of them than other people are. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, if I can find the other books for free, then I will continue the series, but if not, probably not. So the next book, I'm not going to talk about it very much, because it is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and this was my reread for the month. A little bit bigger than the other ones that I did. But yeah, this is the book that I read to Mark this month, and we just finished it a couple of days ago. I had forgotten before I started reading all of these books to Mark to ask him what he knows about the story, about all of the Harry Potter series. So I did finally ask him that, and so he did know some stuff from like the later books, but he doesn't know a lot of stuff like leading up to it, so that's cool. But with this book, he knew that Sirius was going to turn out to be a good guy, and that was pretty much it. So the other stuff he just tried to figure out as we were going. He did figure out the whole Lupin is a werewolf thing. I'm not sure if it's because I accidentally spoiled it a little bit early. Didn't mean to, but I did. So I'm not sure if he figured it out because of that or from something else, from just the name. But yeah, he figured that out. I don't think he figured out that Scabbers was going to be Peter Pettigrew. And for some reason, he really liked Scabbers. So when I was at his apartment, we were playing some quizzes on Sporkle. It kind of spoiled that something was going to happen to Scabbers and that Ron was not going to have him as a pet anymore. And so, of course, Mark thought, oh no, Scabbers is going to die. And then throughout this whole book, Scabbers is like on his last leg, it looks like. So it's like Ron goes and gets some medicine for Scabbers, and Crookshanks just keeps like trying to kill Scabbers, and there's like one point where Scabbers, everybody thinks that he's dead, and it was so funny to hear his reactions, because he's like, oh no, Scabbers, and then Scabbers ends up being a guy that can turn into a rat. So that was fun. But yeah, it was really funny hearing his reactions to that. That was something that I enjoyed a lot. But yeah, there were a couple of other things that happened in the book that I don't think that he knew about beforehand, but he did figure out as we were reading through it, so that was pretty cool. But like I've said before, that is my favorite Harry Potter book, and he said that he enjoyed it also, but he's not sure what his favorite is yet because we haven't gotten through all of them. So there we go, but we did make it through that one. So the last two books that I have, one of them is my recommended for the month. So this one is one that, of course, my friend Katie said that I should read. It's this one. It's the Steve Harvey Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. I'm honestly wondering what is wrong with Katie. Why did she want me to read this? This was not good. I mean, I didn't have high hopes for it, but it was really not good. There are so many things in this that are just, I mean, I know that I said I hated this book. I also, okay, I won't say I hate this book, but I do not like this book. It was not good. I don't know if it's just he thinks that every man is like him, or if I just know guys who are completely different than what he thinks men are. Basically, in this book, it says that men do not like to talk to women. They don't like to, I mean, I can get that they don't like to gossip. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that if you go to your boyfriend or your husband or whatever and you tell them a problem, all they want to do is say, okay, this is how you fix it. We're done. They don't want to like listen to everything. I'm pretty sure that's not true. Let's go over some of the things in here that I absolutely hate. There is a fake conversation that he has between two women, and it is the worst thing I think I've ever heard. Think of the most superficial conversation that you can have. It's in here. That's the conversation that's in here. So I hated that. Some of this stuff is fine because it's like the three things every man needs. Support. Sure. Okay, I can get that. Loyalty. Okay, yeah, sure. That sounds good. And the cookie. Why? Just say sex. That's what it is. And he actually says, by the cookie, I mean sex. Just put it as sex. Don't put it as the cookie. Do you know how stupid that sounds? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Steve Harvey. You annoy the crap out of me. Also, it says that men want to, these are the three things that men do to show that, to show love. They profess their love, basically. They provide for you and they protect you. So then he starts talking about how, with his wife, he always wants to protect her, which is fine. That's not a big deal. But then he goes into it a little bit more, and he says that his wife, before they met, she liked to do like adventurous things. So she wanted to, like, if she wanted to go skydiving or something, hey, she'd go skydiving. She really liked scuba diving. That was like one of her favorite things to do, is go scuba diving. So she went scuba diving with him, and he doesn't like scuba diving. So he sat in the boat, and basically he told the people in the boat that if his wife did not come back up completely safe, that he was going to kill everybody in the boat. So she comes up from her scuba dive and sees that he's freaking out like a maniac, gets out of the water and tells him, "It's okay, babe. You don't have to worry about it. I'll never scuba dive again." So something that she loved, she can never do again because he's a freaking idiot, because he can't stand not being able to protect his woman. I'm getting angry. I need to set that aside. So needless to say, some of the stuff that's in there seems kind of obvious. Like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get that this is what men want. That's fine. I kind of knew that in the first place. Not a big deal. But also some of this is so freaking misogynistic that I can't stand it. So I have to say that nobody should read this. And I'm ready whenever Katie wants to take this back. She can have it because I don't want it. I don't want it in my apartment anymore because I didn't like it. So yeah, not my favorite. Would not recommend. Still didn't hate it as much as that other book though, but you'll get to hear about that in a rant later. Boy, aren't you excited for that. But I do have one more book. This was the book that I did not finish in March. This is Round Island with a Fridge, and I did finish it. I did finish it last night, actually. And I really liked it. This one was a good one. It took a while for me to get into it. Chapter 3 is where I really started getting into it, but the first time that I read it, like the first day that I started reading it, I only read the first 2 chapters and I was like, okay, this isn't really that interesting. I'm kind of bored by it. But once you hit chapter 3, it starts to ramp up and it gets really good really quickly. So yes, I would recommend this one. This one was really fun. It is a true story. Basically, the guy, one day he is in Ireland visiting some friends for some reason. I don't know what. And as he is leaving, as he is getting ready to go to the airport, he sees a guy on the side of the road hitchhiking, and the guy has a fridge with him. I can't remember if it's like a full-size fridge or if it's a mini fridge. But anyway, the guy has a fridge. And so he's like, oh, it's the fridge man. And he kind of laughs at it and everything. And he and his friends laugh. So then one night later, he gets drunk with some of those friends. And he's talking about the fridge man. And one of his friends, named Kevin, decides that the guy's name is Tony, of course. Tony Hawk's the guy who wrote it. Kevin bets Tony that Tony cannot hitchhike around Ireland with a fridge in 1 month. And the bet is for 100 pounds because they're British. And so Tony's like, I think I can do it. So that's what he does. He sets out to go to hitchhike around Ireland with a fridge in 1 month. And it's really cute. He goes to an appliance shop and he talks to a guy there and he kind of decides what kind of fridge he wants. He gets it's just like a mini fridge. It's not like a fridge freezer combo thing. It's just a little fridge. There are pictures of it like all like in the middle of it. So it's just a tiny fridge. It's not like that big. It's not a big deal. But he has like a little trolley that he carries around with it. And he has a backpack. So where I stopped in it the first time I was reading it, I got like 2 chapters in, which was he was about to arrive in Ireland and he didn't have the fridge yet. And he had a friend who lives in Ireland who bought the fridge for him, and it was 130 pounds. And if you remember, the bet was for 100 pounds. So he's already out 30 pounds if he wins the bet. So anyway, yeah, the book starts out a little bit slow, or it was kind of slow to me, but it picks up once he actually starts hitchhiking. So yeah, he goes all around Ireland and meets a lot of different people. He drinks a lot. At one point, he meets a guy who surfs and they take the fridge surfing on a surfboard. So that's kind of cute. At another place, somebody wants to take the fridge scuba diving, but they're afraid that if it fills up with water, they're never going to get it back. So they decide not to do that. The fridge kind of becomes its own little character. It gets blessed by a Mother Superior at one point. They christen it. They give it a name. So yeah, the fridge's name is Saoirse Malloy. So there you go. Toward the beginning of the book, somebody puts a little sticker on the front that says "My Fridge" in Gaelic. And as he goes around, people sign it. Like the people who give him rides and the people who see him in bars and everything. They sign the fridge. He's like featured on a radio show called The Jerry Ryan Show. Apparently Jerry Ryan was like a really big like radio host. He keeps calling in to Jerry Ryan, and Jerry Ryan's people call him and everything. So he's on the show like a lot. It's like a morning show. And so all these people in Ireland are hearing about him on the radio. And so they're, stopping when they see him because they're like, hey, it's the fridge man. And so they give him a ride and everything. But yeah, it was really cute. I liked it a lot. I would recommend this one. So that is it. Those are the 8 books, the 7 books that I started out with at the beginning of the month, one of which I was supposed to finish last month. But yeah, decided not to. So those are the 7 books plus my 1 bonus book that I threw in there also. I'm also reading another book right now that is not going to be on the list. And it is, what is it called? I don't know, it's a Harry Potter related thing. It's called Harry Potter, A History of Magic. And there was like an exhibition in London somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where it was. Oh, it was curated by the British Library. And it's got like a lot of things, different manuscripts and stuff that J.K. Rowling took things from. So it was like, where did she come up with the idea for mandrakes? Well, actually they're a real thing. And so it kind of goes into stuff like that, like the stuff behind everything in like the magical world, basically, the wizarding world. But it's free right now on Kindle Unlimited, so I just grabbed it really quickly because I thought it'd be like a quick little read. I'm about halfway through it right now, and I've only been looking at it, I've only looked at it a couple times. But it's interesting just to kind of see where she got all of those ideas. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I'm reading right now. But like I said, I'm not gonna do like a whole video on it or anything. But I am going to do a video, a nice little rant review on The Wrong Room at some point. I may not do it today because I don't know. I don't know if I want to today because I feel like I'm just gonna get really mad in it. I may go ahead and record that as soon as I'm done with this video. I don't know. But that was it. Those were the books that I read in April. So there you go. Now you know kind of my feelings on some of those things. And I will have my May TBR probably tomorrow, hopefully. Whenever I put this up, I will have the next one up the next day. That's what I'm planning on. But yeah, I've already got my books picked out for the month. So I will tell you guys what they are next time. Till then, bye. Stop licking yourself, please. Come on, man. Thank you. Good Lord. I just want to make this video. And basically that's all he has with him. A backpack, a fridge, and the trolley so that he can kind of like move it along a little easier. Can you not? Why is there a helicopter flying by? What did I do to deserve this? So it actually cost him more to buy the fridge than it did to, Are you freaking kidding me? Go away, helicopter! Why are you circling? Oh my god, I hope that helicopter is finally gone. Jeez. Alright, I don't even remember what I was saying. Gotta wait till the dog finishes drinking. I've had so many distractions today. I just want to film this video.